And it's showtime. A very good evening. Well, a very good afternoon. It's 4 o'clock to you all from London, from the UK, where I am. I'm Nadine Paris, executive and leadership coach, and I'm a workplace mediator, also a learning designer. And Jenny Ling is with me today. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Nadine. My name is Jenny Ling. Every time we have these discussions, we stumble over what it is we do. And I'm quite interested to hear, Nadine, that you've kind of been given a lot more detail about what you do, because I think we both work as independent consultants in all sorts of different areas. So my area of expertise is probably around sort of people and leadership development. I work primarily in education, and what I do is I work alongside teams or individuals or organizations and help develop their leadership skills.
And we've known each other for a very long time, haven't we?
We have.
And we've traveled the world as well together for work.
Always for work, but we managed to squeeze in a few little jaunts as well, don't we?
We did.
Yeah,
we did. Yeah. So Jenny, today we're going to it's just the two of us today. Jan Daines and Nick Sheriff will be with us next week, and hello to them if they are listening. But today we're going to be looking again at resilience, and the focus is how to be even more resilient in 2021. And I want to give a little bit of a background as to why we decided to talk again about resilience, because I think it was the LinkedIn Live number 4 that we did probably in December, where we did one on resilience, and it was very, very successful. We did this one with Jan Daines and Nick Sheriff, and it was very successful. We had over 700 people listening. And 2,500 people downloaded the PDF with our 10 bubbles and 10 strategies about resilience. And we thought that it was an unfinished job. There is always more to say. And clearly, with what's happening at the moment, there is a lot to say. And this week, I was reading a story on LinkedIn that made me quite emotional. And this is a story, and I've got 2 screens, so forgive me if I'm not looking at this one. I'm going to be looking at my other screen. This is the story, well, actually, this is a post from Sarah Aldred. And Sarah wrote, can my team survive lockdown 3? To be honest, I don't know, but what I will do everything in my power to ensure that it does. I have 11 team members out of 16 homeschooling. Is everyone coping? Definitely not, and nor would I, but I will flex my service to ensure I look after each and every one of them. What am I without my team? Absolutely nothing. And I then responded to her post, and I said, don't forget to look after yourself, because it's easy to give, and the pot, as we talk, you and I, Jenny, being quite empty. And then Sarah and I got to talk, and I said to Sarah, well, I will talk to Jenny and we will continue to do our discussion on resilience, because behind the background, I think it would be fair to say that you and I, Jenny, were working on leadership models with change model, and we're looking at resilience as well. So that's kind of giving us the background story as to why we are talking again about resilience. Have I said everything here, Jenny?
I think that the only bit that I would add is these bubbles are little summaries of our, if you haven't seen us before, Nadine keeps a summary of our discussions. So these bubbles, which we're going to share with you today, are actually they're original. We've invented, or we've discussed, the 4 of us, and these bubbles are a result of that. And so what we're going to do today is taking the discussions that we had in these 10 bubbles, we're going to ask some questions around those bubbles. And this is not a theoretical, what is resilience, what does it look like? It's very much, what can you do to build your resilience? And I mean, I was talking very much about jump starting. Perhaps not a skill that the younger generation have nowadays, but I'm sure if you're of my sort of era, you will remember jump starting the car in the winter. And I think that it's when the battery's flat and you need a jump start, where do you go to boost that? And I think that we feel at the moment that people's resilience pots are so low that they actually haven't got time to devote to themselves to build up their resilience. So what we wanted to do today was just give you lots of little ideas, little things that perhaps you can do that might just help. And please contribute to the chat on the side. If you've got any ideas or questions, I'll monitor that and we'll bring them into the conversation.
Can you see, Jenny, while you were sharing, I've just shared the 10 bubbles. Can you see them?
Yes, okay. I can see all the 10 bubbles.
Okay. And for anybody who is watching that, you have to apologize my skills on StreamYard, but we were rehearsing with Jenny just before starting, and it's a little bit fiddly actually to use a PowerPoint and to have to share my screen, and you have to see everything that is on my screen. So if there is anybody out there who knows a better way of doing it, please, let me know, and I will borrow your skill for that. So we've back in December, we shared those 10 bubbles, and over 2,500 people downloaded those bubbles, and we thought we would relook at each one of them and take you through a journey. And this is by no means a lecture as such. It's just combining ideas that Jenny and I we are having when we are talking with our clients. So just before we start, I'm going to make that kind of booklet available on my website, and I will mention at the end of this presentation, while it's conversation, I will mention to you where to go and find it, and there will be some instruction as to how you can use the booklet, because you can actually annotate online. You don't have to print it. We want to preserve the environment, so there will be some little help to help you just use it online. So the first of our bubble, and I think we are going to be spending about 5 minutes on each slide. The first of our bubble was this one: listen to positive voices. And we thought it was really important to start with this one, because a lot of what our clients are telling us is that when your resilience is being tested, you've got all kinds of voices. You've got the negative and you've got the positive one. And what we are saying here is, well, listen to the positive. It's easy to say, but then, who are your positive voices? Jenny, do you want to add something here?
Sure. Yeah, I think we all have these voices. And I find personally, when I'm least resilient, it's the negative voices that come to the fore. And I think it's almost human nature to tune into the negativity rather than the positivity. And I think that sometimes you actually have to positively flip those negative voices. It could be that their comment that, why are they saying that? And perhaps you're not looking at where that person is in terms of what they're saying to you. So I think part of it is about flipping the negative to a positive, but also yourself who your positive voices are. Nadine and I spend many hours just chatting, informally and formally. And I think it was me who said to Nadine, or it could have been Nadine who said to me, I can't remember which way around it was, you are my resilience. And I think that through this time, through this isolation, that if you have somebody who you trust and who you can communicate with, be it on Zoom, be it through a text, it doesn't matter. But those are the people that you need to keep tuned into and plugged into. And I think that, Nadine is definitely one for me. And the other one is Max PT, as I call him. I don't know whether he's listening to this, but he's my personal trainer who has a very difficult job with me because I'm quite resistant to doing things I'm not comfortable with. And being dyspraxic, going to a gym is almost impossible. But he also, he feeds things back. So he asks me questions. And I think that these two are very strong positive voices for me. And I hope I am for them as well, because I think it's about using your positive voice to help and support others as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting what you've said about friends and family. because here it's about it's the who, isn't it? It's about identifying the person, that voice, who is going to make a little bit of a difference. And yes, it can be somebody from your family, it can be a friend. I mean, Jenny and I, we're friends, so we are supporting one another a lot. But it could equally, and I was thinking about that, it could equally be a song. I mean, I don't know about you, Jenny, but certainly during COVID-19, I've had plenty of time to listen to song. And there are some artists actually whose voices really have positive impact on me. So, or it could be a musical instrument, because that can be it's not so much a voice, but it's a sound element, and again, that can be quite calming for people. And when I was talking to a client of mine this week, she said to me, well, actually, just listening to the waves, you go on the beach and you're just listening to the wave, and she said that was really quite comforting for me. So it doesn't always have to be a human being. It can be, you can have an iPhone and plug in your iTunes, or it can be you are in the nature and you're listening to different sounds, be it the birds or the wind, the sea, anything that can have a positive impact on the way you feel.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about music. I think, I mean, there are certain songs that I listen to, and some will make me cry, and some will make me very, very happy. And I remember at the beginning of lockdown, we were trying to get this sort of keep fit going, and we decided to make up our own routine. And we played the Proclaimers' "I Will Walk 5,000 Miles" and stomped around the room singing at the top of our voice. And that, it makes, I mean, I wouldn't do it publicly, obviously, but I think that for me, that got me moving, which makes you feel more positive. That got me listening to some music that I found very uplifting. And I think you're absolutely right about sound, be it the waves, be it the sound of somebody you love's voice. I think there are all sorts of ways that you can interpret this positive voice, and it's for each and every one out there to identify who or what are their positive voices.
Because it makes you think about something else, doesn't it, Jenny? Because you're focusing on to listening, and therefore you're not focusing on whatever is troubling you or making you feel quite down. So well, that's the first kind of little insight of what we can do. Then comes the second one, which is the personal mantra. And the one I've put there, "Everything happens for a good reason," is actually mine. I've used it. I always use it. And you could argue that it's a little bit feeling like accepting, you're accepting the reality. Well, you have to. I mean, I feel that there's no point feeling frustrated by COVID or whatever, because really, this is in our face. We have to go with it. But everything happens for a good reason is a way for me as a personal mantra to cope. So it's making me cope. It's making me accept. So I'm not debating. I'm not fighting. I'm fully accepting. And it's kind of bringing a little bit of a peace in myself, because I draw onto my values, my own values, and it's giving me a reason to keep going. So I keep going because I relate that to my own values and to being present in the moment and finding that I can focus on the positive and really, really focus instead of fighting.
Yeah, I think it's the fighting. If you're fighting against something, that's the negative coming in, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think my take on this is plan B is usually the best, and if not plan B, then plan C.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll give you an example of when I found I needed to be resilient. And those of you who know me and have been through this journey with me will understand. When I was in education and I got my first the deputy headship, the first one I applied for. So I thought, I'm a bit of all right here. And then I was into my 20 interviews for headships. And actually at about 25, I think I lost count. And I remember somebody saying to me, you know, are you sure this is the right path for you? Because there's rejection, there's a lot of rejection here. And I thought, well, yes, I'm pretty sure it is the right path for me. And sure enough, eventually, and I can't even tell you how many interviews it was, but it was over 25. I got a headship. And I think that all the 25 before, the match with the school wasn't as good as the match with the one that I got. So when you're going for a job interview and you don't get it and you think, oh, well, you know, I was the best, I had the best qualifications, or I knew more about this than anybody else, I think that it's just because the job's not right for you. And I think it took me, I mean, we talk about resilience being the ability to bounce back, don't we?
Yeah.
And I would hear in the evening that I hadn't got it. You know, you wait for that phone call, you haven't got it. And then by break time, coffee time the next day, I was looking at the Times Z to look for new. So, you know, my resilience made me carry on. It could have been seen as stubbornness, but it was that ability to put something that is disturbing or distressing or that you don't want behind you and moving on. And I think what we're talking about, Nadine, are the same things, but from a slightly different perspective. And other people will have other perspectives. But I think the question is, what is your good reason? Kind of digs a little bit deeper. What is your good reason for what? What is your good reason for being resilient? What is your good reason for carrying on? Well, I think you owe it to yourself, don't you, to keep going. Your good reason for keep going might be for your children, it might be for your husband, it might be for your work colleagues, but there's always people around to support and care for you. And I think that being there for them is that good reason.
Yeah, I think it's really a good point that you're making, that you know, you owe it to yourself, and there is always a good reason to keep going, right? And the resilience, I mean, we're talking about mental resilience and emotional resilience, but there is also the physical resilience, because it's actually quite tiring to try to be resilient when you have a lot of adversity, you know, in front of you. And this is why we are saying, you know, go into your social resilience and tap into your friendship and your family, because actually those people know you very well. And if you just discuss with them, you know, your good reason to keep going, then they might actually give you a few more ideas that you might have not thought about. So having
I think that's hard.
Yeah,
I think that's hard when people are isolated, and I think that, you know, I think a lot of people, be they furloughed, maybe they've lost their job, they may have, they may well be grieving somebody who they love has died. And I think that finding your good reason to carry on when you're facing that level of adversity is, for some people, almost impossible. And what we would hope to say today is that if you are feeling like that you have got no good reason, then maybe now's the time to actually think about the good reasons that you have got. We're not professional counsellors, we're not grief counsellors, and we wouldn't really want to be going into that area, because that's not why we're here. But we just hope that if you feel you have no good reason, then talk to somebody about that.
Yes, and we will put a list as well of organizations who can help people. We will put a list with the contact details. Now, building on from that, and you've just said it's quite easy, you know, to look at the glass is half empty. However, creating a healthy mindset for your self-care is quite critical, but it's for me, this is a habit building. It's not something that you just do one day and then you abandon. So it's about finding your daily routines that are going to be suiting who you are. Now, before you do that, you need to establish, well, actually, what's my healthy mindset? How do I, what does it look like for me? And what would I, if I had a blank piece of paper, what would I write in it, because there is the mindset and there is the healthy mindset. So for me, for example, it might be, well, it's my meditation in the morning, 5 minutes. I can't do more than 5 minutes because I get distracted quite quickly. as you will be not surprised, Jenny. So I think 5 minutes for me is quite enough. But I do it several times a day. That's really important. It's my yoga when my body let me do the yoga. But it's also other things like cooking. I love cooking, and while I'm cooking, I don't think. I focus on the making the food. It's also playing my music. I mean, I was saying earlier on that iTunes has become so important for me, and even more so now. It's also walking in the nature. I mean, every day, no matter what the weather is like, I think it's really important to go out and to have some fresh air. And it's also about reading, because when if you are on the move all the time, it's a very busy mindset. So I think it's good to have a good balance between a movement and also resting. And the final thing, talking with your friends, I mean, we all have our best friends. Jenny and I think we talk almost every day. Jenny's in Newcastle, I'm in Guildford, so, we're quite far away. But we frequently talk, and I think that's kept us going on many occasions where things were pretty challenging. So it's about
talk, at least it's a text.
Yeah. Oh,
how are you?
So thank you to the technology.
Yeah. I think interestingly, we're very different, and we both acknowledge that, and we celebrated each other's differences. But I think that for me, it's about much more giving myself permission. And I can't remember whether that comes as a later bubble, but for me, a healthy mindset is about not feeling guilty about not doing something, or not feeling guilty about doing something. So I think that within lockdown, there are so many things that we can't do, that I think that if we want to do things that we wouldn't normally do, then just do it. And, don't beat yourself up over the things that you're going to feel guilty about. I mean, music, again, I think is a great thing. Reading, I mean, for me, reading is it a luxury? I'm not sure. When I'm on holiday, I always read a lot, but I always seem to think that you can only read in the evenings. So one of the things I've done in this lockdown is actually I allow myself in the afternoons to sit down and read a book. And for me, that really, it calms me. It takes me out of myself. They're novels that I read, and I get involved in what's happening. And I think all of us have got different things that we do to create that healthy mindset, and none of us can tell you what will work for you.
Yeah,
it's so very personal, isn't it?
It is, and it can be quite daunting, actually, if you say to somebody, well, take a blank piece of paper and what would it look like?
Yeah.
You may wonder, well, I've no idea what it would look like. I need to think about it. So it may not be something that you create straight away. It's it's a live document you can add every day, and there is no order, there is no ranking, and you can also try, and if you don't like it, you can abandon it, you can tweak. So it's not set in stone, but it's really personalized to you, and that's it's really important. Jenny, do we have any questions coming in? Or?
No, nothing. No, nobody said anything yet. So can we just say to people listening, please just either say hello, or maybe you've got an idea about what would help you make a healthy mindset or contribute to this. The idea is that we include the chat in our conversations. We can't reply to the chat at typing, but we can in our discussions. So if you've got anything to say, please do. Shall I start this one?
Yes,
Yes,
please, yes. I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I think doing something different every day can be a huge challenge because you've got so much, and so many people out there have got so many demands on their time that actually this could seem like a huge luxury. And I can think of people who are single parents, who are at home, who are homeschooling, who may have children with all sorts of challenges, who may have lost their job, who may be furloughed. There are so many challenges around at the minute that to say something like this could sound a little trite, and it's actually not meant to sound like that. It's just meant to say, try and create, however you do it, that 5 minutes or that 10 minutes for you. It's classically, it used to be for me when my children were young, is have a bath and lock the door, and put some music on so I couldn't hear. And nothing infuriated me more than when they came banging on the door. And I just thought, you have to build that time for yourself. And I know it's easier said than done, but actually it's going back to what we were saying about building your resilience. And if you don't look after yourself and you've got so many pressures on you, then I'm not saying you're letting people down, but it becomes more challenging to be resilient if you don't take care of yourself. And I think the classic example that I always use is putting the oxygen mask on first. If you're on a plane, you put the oxygen mask on you first. And I remember when I was in these sorts of situations, obviously, when I was working full time, the kids were at home. I remember thinking, I can't afford to be ill. I can't afford to, I can't do this. I can't do anything for myself, because all my time was taken for my job or for my family. And during those years and years and years, I never got that plan to do something for myself. So I would just say, grab 5 minutes as and when you can for yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's also something that you can do with your children as well. You can sit around the table and say, well, how about we all do something different? We'll do one thing different today. You can discuss it with your children. What would you like to do, and what can I do to enable you to do that? And one of them may say, well, actually, I'd quite like to paint, or I quite like to cook, or I quite like to, I don't know, hoover. So I think it can be done through a discussion with whomever is living with you. It doesn't have to be necessarily you make the decision. It's like, when you have children all day, and I was talking to a client today, she was telling me that she was struggling to speak with me next because she's got her own daughter, and it was quite difficult to find a moment. And I totally understand that, having brought up 4 children. I get that, and this is why I think it can be quite challenging when you have children to plan something for yourself. So I'd encourage to have a discussion, if of course your children are old enough to discuss, to talk, but actually to say, what is it that you would like to do, and how can we facilitate that so that everybody's happy today? We will all have done one thing that we all wanted to do, and that was different from yesterday. And actually, it doesn't have to be planned in advance either. You don't have to. It's not like a development plan where you've done that over the next 30 days. It can be something that every day, you discuss, and that can make you a little bit more curious, because then if you say, well, try to do something every day, it's actually quite a challenge, right? When you've got some very set routines, it's quite challenging to do something different every day. And routines are great, don't take me wrong, but I think it's worth a try, actually, see how you feel.
It's also handing control over to the children, which is always a good thing to do within parameters.
Yes.
I mean, my 2 were 7 years apart and very, very different. And it was very difficult to get activities that would suit both of them, both developmentally and in any other way. But it's about creating those, the meeting halfway, isn't it? And getting something that everybody would like to do.
Yeah. I love that picture of that little little boy waiting at the bottom of the stairs, and be realistic about what you can't do. I mean, it's quite interesting, isn't it, to be realistic about what you can't do? Because I always feel that I don't know, I've got it in me that I can do almost everything I want if I really want to. And it's probably because I'm solution focused and I try to remove the barriers. And I think that, again, if you talk with whoever you live with, that you want to do a specific thing, then if you really want to do it, you can do it. I think in English you say, where there is a will, there is a way.
Yeah. I don't feel like that. That's interesting, because I don't feel that I can do everything. And if I set my mind to something, I could probably do most things, but I am limited. If Max, my PT, is listening, he'll laugh, because he knows never to make me run. Because if I run, my trainers can act as brakes, and I actually tore my hamstring trying to run. So, and I'm looking at those stairs and I'm thinking to myself, can I run up and run down those stairs? And I couldn't. I could go up fairly carefully, but there's no handrail. And okay, I mean, I'm not a very old pensioner, but nevertheless, if there's not a handrail and there's lots and lots of steps like that, I find that really quite disconcerting. So I think physically, I certainly have limitations at what I can't do, but what I can do is start to chip away. So if I feel I can't climb those stairs because there's no handrail, I could do 5 or 10. So it's about eating the elephant, isn't it, in small pieces. And I think that most things that you can do, you can, if you break them down into small enough chunks, you can do it. But I think being realistic about what you can't do is also being realistic about what people in your family can't do. And I think that, I mean, my daughter, who I've spoken about before, has various issues. And for her, walking in the countryside is quite challenging. She falls over quite a lot. She has to hang on to you. But we take her out nevertheless, because she would say, I can't do that. So I think it's about building confidence in other people to be realistic what they can't do. And I see that Sarah's come in. And said, my time to think is walking the dogs. I try not to worry about things I can't control. Yeah, and that's going back to your point, Nadine, isn't it, about going out and walking in nature and taking dogs out. I mean, dogs are just the most wonderful thing for building resilience and for mental well-being and all sorts. I miss, our dog died recently, and I must say I do miss him.
You mentioned, Jenny, that you talk about habits and but also things that we can't do. But I think it's also getting out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we analyze why is it actually, or what is it that we can't do, the argument doesn't quite hold together. And sometimes it's like, I don't want to do. It's not that I can't do it. It's
absolutely. There's a difference. Yeah.
There is a difference. And it's very much around the comfort zone as well, because it's very easy to just stay where you are and not take any risk and do everything, set routines and also to take for granted what you can do, because it's not because you walk. I mean, I'm trying to walk 6 to 7 miles at the moment a day, and I'll make it happen. But it's very easy to just stick to 6 or 7 miles and to say, I've done my target. I mean, I've downloaded this Google app, which tells me how many steps I've done. I mean, I haven't asked for that. All I wanted was, how many miles did I walk? And so I can do 6 miles, but actually there is nothing stopping me doing 8 miles. So it's also
that stretch zone, isn't it? Your comfort zone is your small circle in the middle, and your stretch zone, and you can stretch that zone further and further. And I think that being realistic about what you can't do is right, but within that, there are small steps that you can take to enable you to do what you can't do better. if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
I mean, Nadine, just take today for an example, you know, with StreamYard. StreamYard is quite a new technology to us, but you do all the bits. And, you know, last time we spoke, you didn't know whether you could get a PowerPoint slide up on StreamYard. So we only practiced for like the 10 minutes before we started, and there we have it. So already there are you modeling the fact that you're prepared to step outside your comfort zone and to do it very publicly.
Yeah.
Which
But
takes a lot of courage.
I have to say, I did send an email to my accountant, Mahmoud Riza, and he's doing the LinkedIn Live as well. And I was asking him, Mahmoud, how do you get the PowerPoint to show on StreamYard? And he did respond to me very, very kindly.
But there it is.
Yes. So the what can you control, and focus on what you can control. I see a lot of that at the moment, on TV, on social media, in magazine. It seems to be that we're all told to focus on what we can control, because of course we can't control what's happening with COVID and all the rest of it. And I get that. I mean, I'm not tired of it, but I'm seeing it a lot, and I personally don't mind thinking about what I can't control. I think it's quite healthy, because eventually it might be something that eventually you will control. You know, once we all have the vaccine, eventually, then we will control a little bit more what we do. But I think it was important to have there, because a lot of people talk about it.
I think there's a frustration as well. I think that we haven't been brought up as a generation to have government control and to be told what you can and what you can't do. And I find it surreal. That I mentioned to a friend of mine yesterday, I said, you know, feel free to pop over for a legal walk. And she replied, well, I can't get in the car to come and see you. And I just thought, you know, even that hadn't registered, because apparently the rules have changed. Somebody was saying sometime the rules for lockdown have changed about 147 times or something.
Yeah, it's 4.5 times a day, apparently it's changing.
So I mean, I'm quite a law-abiding citizen, although I have a rebellious soul. So I'm not. I don't want to rebel against what's going on, because I actually think that the lockdown and people not seeing each other and stuff, I think is right. So I have to be able to control what I control what time I get up in the morning. I control what I eat. I control whether I go for a walk or do a gym video, and those are the things that I have got control. So I kind of ignore the rest. And I think, I mean, I appreciate that I'm not in a situation that a lot of people are in, with having lost a job, you know, worrying about how I'm going to feed the children. And from that point of view, now that I'm kind of not exactly retired, but of that age anyway, I haven't got those worries. But there are a lot of people out there who spend a lot of time worrying about things that they actually can't control, and therefore there's no point in worrying. I think that's what we're trying to say, is that there's no point wasting worry time or negative emotions on something on which you'll have no impact. So spend the time developing and focusing on the things that you can have impact on.
Yeah, because you know, even if things are pretty tough, you have your family, you have your children, husband, wife, you have the space where you live, you have the support around you, and I think it's really important to know where to go when you need support, and that's something that you control, because you know who to call upon. Do you want to? Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some of my daughter's friends, a lot of whom have are neurodiverse or autistic or have some kind of challenge, and there are a number of them who live alone, and some of them have no family, and it's interesting to see how my daughter has created a community of support with them. And I remember after the first lockdown, one of her friends said to me, she's been an absolute lifeline. And it was just the fact that she knew she would receive a call every day at 6 o'clock. And sure enough, she's on the phone every day at 6 o'clock to two of her friends who she knows lives on their own. So I think that the people who do live on their own, who are struggling, are the people perhaps who need to get that community of support around them, of somebody that they know that they can rely on to always be there for them, even if it's a text, even if it's just a phone call. But it's about reaching out. And
yes, I agree with you, Jenny. I mean, I'll give the example of my daughter is a university student. So she's at my youngest one. She's at King's, and so she lives in a house with 4 other students. They're all in their final years, and what they have decided to do is eat all together every day at lunchtime and in the evening, because that's a moment in time that they can focus on and control. So they've decided to cook all together. They've done a rota actually at lunchtime of who is cooking what. And it's a time that they share. They eat together. It doesn't last long because they've got essays to write and everything. But
it's a coming together, though, isn't it?
It's a coming together that has become actually a daily habit that is making them survive what's happening, because they're stuck in a house and they can't really do anything else other than have their live lecture and write their essays. Which is not at all what they had planned. And for that part of the population, it's really testing them.
Very, yeah.
So I guess we're all trying to find ways of how we can survive, and it's tapping into what you can control, and really appreciate that, be in the moment. I talk a lot about being in the moment with my clients. Because we all want to make plans for the future and the holidays and traveling again, and what is the first thing that you're going to do when lockdown is coming to an end. I think at the moment many people prefer to focus on, okay, let's just get through the now and in the best possible way for us. Jenny, do you want to start us off on this one?
Sure. Audit, that's a word you don't like, isn't it? It's looking at your social capital being your community, really, the people and the things that are around you. And I think that it's something that perhaps we don't all necessarily look at. And I think that the question, what does your social capital look like, would be for you to start filling in the people or the things that are around you that you can actually call on. And linking it back to the previous thing, that the things that you can't control and the social capital. And one of them is what's going on in your head. And I think that I'm a terrific dreamer, and going out when I'm out walking, I'm planning and plotting and dreaming, and I'm watching all these programs about House in the Sun and Escape to the Country and all these things that I would love to do. And a lot of what I'm doing is actually it isn't planning. It's just kind of dreaming, and it's harmless. And so I think part of the social capital that you have is also about yourself, and looking to what it is within yourself that you can support and help. Because ultimately, resilience is about you. And what we're trying to do here is to bring all sorts of ways of jump starting or filling up your resilience pot, but ultimately it's only you who can do it. So I think it's about recognizing who you can call on and what your social capital is, and everybody will have something. And I think it's about perhaps being creative and maybe sharing this with people. And I think Sarah's just come in again. She's set up a carers group at work for those of us who have caring responsibility, where we have a safe space to whinge, moan, and share experiences. That is so important, Sarah. Really I really get that. When my daughter was young, I set up a dyspraxic action group, which was a group of parents who all had dyspraxic children, and we went out for a play and tea, and there were about 15 children there, and there were 2 that were just going zoom, 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 and all the others were very introverted. And I asked myself the question, this was a long time ago, so it's very early days, why are they all introverted? And 2, one of which was mine, is going zoom, zoom, zoom. And of course, later on, we got an ADHD diagnosis. But I think that having that that group of parents who understood what it was like to be in a situation, a caring situation, or having a child who didn't conform to all the norms, the social norms, the physical norms. I think the carers group, I think that's a wonderful idea, Sarah. I think it's that in itself will help hugely build the resilience of the people who you're in the group with. So
yeah, I want to say something on that. I think it's a fabulous idea, and Sarah, I hope we get to meet with you sometime. I can't see your photo on LinkedIn, Sarah, but I'd love to meet up with you and to talk. I think setting up those group for parents are absolutely key. But I was talking with a friend of mine who has the same facility at her work, and she said to me, "It's great because we're all, in a safe place. We're all sharing adversity, really, and sometimes you cry because it's kind of good to cry, and you feel a little bit better after, because you feel that those people in that group understand where you're coming from. It's a place where you can be very vulnerable, you're not judged, and that's really important. And I think what's also good sometimes is if you can have somebody to come in the group who doesn't know the group, but who can come and give something to the group. It's a bit like what you were talking about, Jenny, the oxygen mask, right? The oxygen, because the limit of those groups, and I'm not trying to put my black hat on here, I'm talking with what I have seen over the 25 years working in education. Jenny and I are both ex-head teachers. The danger is that it's quite negative and draining, and so Jenny and I were very interested in bringing back hope, right? Because people have to live with some kind of hope, and so I mean, what I'm saying is that if there are groups where people do want to open the door to somebody who can come in and give a little something, and that's the other part of the argument that you were making, Jenny, like what can you give to people? I think it's fantastic to have that occasionally, because it gives a good balance to the health of the group, and it can put people back on track.
I think there's 2 sides to that. I think, and thinking back to the dyspraxic action group, as I called it, one of the sides is what Sarah says about that ability to open up and to show your vulnerability. But I think the other side is about learning about things. And we used to have people who came into the group who would help us develop our understanding of the people who we were caring for. And of course, the other side of all this is we've been talking about this from an adult to a child point of view, but you've also got the child carers and the people, the young people who are caring for people within their home, and how incredibly challenging that must be at the moment, because I think we've underestimated the impact that schools have. And I think that the young people who have lost that ability to relate to their peer group in the casual and informal ways that they have been doing, and I think that must be particularly challenging for young carers.
Yeah. Now, moving on, we've got about 10 minutes left. We've got about 4 slides, 4 points that we'd like to keep talking about. We talked about learning from our mistakes, and to anybody that tells us that they don't make mistakes, I think they don't exist. We all make mistakes, and And sometimes it's not only about making a mistake, it's about making an assumption, or having a specific fear that is completely irrational. So I think it's really important to reflect. I mean, I reflect every day. I had a coach when I was working in education, Linda Rose. I interviewed her last Friday. And she would make me reflect every day. I mean, she would make me. I chose to. Let's be clear.
Your choices.
Okay. But every day I was reflecting on what had gone wrong and the mistakes that I had made, the assumptions I had made, the fear I've had. And actually, I felt that was really healthy for me to do at the end of the day. It wouldn't take long. You know, I was journaling a few things. She'd actually sent me some kind of post-it note. So I, you know, it was like 3 stars and 2 things I could change, and then, you know, a mistake. So it was just reflecting on one mistake of the day, and sometimes it was a mistake that I had made, sometimes it was a mistake in my way of thinking. It could be related to skills or to one of my competence. It just depended, but I thought that was really good to keep me grow and to also focus my mindset and to forgive myself as well, because I'm a high achiever. I like everything to be almost perfect, right? And it's very difficult to do that. So it's giving yourself permission to think, well, actually, it's fine. It's not the end of the world, right? And
it's fear of failure, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think part of the problem is that mistakes are seen as failure, and it's about flipping the narrative, isn't it? Again, as I was saying before, if you see mistakes as failure, then that's a negative emotion. If you see mistakes as learning, then it's a positive emotion. And as a former primary teacher, there was no point in, I used to think, particularly in maths, and I mean, we're talking a long time ago when, you know, parents' evening was coming and the children's maths books had to have lots of ticks. And I just thought, this isn't demonstrating learning. And for a long time, I felt that learning comes from mistakes, and without mistakes, learning can't happen in the same way. Because if you're doing, and I'll use the pages and pages of sums, and they're all right, what are you learning? If you've got 3 sums and they're all wrong, what are you learning? And I think that it's linking mistakes to negativity that is the problem. And I think that as a professional, if you make mistakes, they can have consequences. And I think it's about managing the consequences and also being confident in having made that mistake, so that you're not covering it up necessarily. But you say, I have, but I've learned.
Yeah. One of the question that Linley, my coach, would ask me was, well, what opportunity is this giving you? And then when you look at it like that, you think, yeah, actually, let's focus on what the opportunity is. And now my children ask me.
You've trained them well.
I've trained them well, actually. And we're moving on to accomplishments, because, you know, it's easy at the moment to forget what we are accomplishing. If there is one thing in common that a lot of us have improved on, it's the use of technology. I think we all deserve a medal as to how we can navigate Zoom and MS Teams. And I mean, you and I, we were working remotely with the Middle East in the spring, summer, Jenny, do you remember?
In the middle of the night.
Yes, and we were navigating all kinds of systems, Google Classroom, you name it, we were just navigating them all. And sometimes we take it for granted that we can do things, or we don't remember, we forget, right? And it's so important to actually make the list and, you know, pause, press stop, pause, and celebrate.
Yeah. I think that the picture there, I just think is wonderful, and I think I think as a nationality, British people are very reserved and not very good at singing their own praises, or pride is seen as a again as a negative thing. And I think sometimes, you know, in business, you get 360-degree feedback. So you get lots of people feeding back their vision of how they see you. And I found getting 360-degree feedback was really encouraging, because they'd seen things that I hadn't seen. So enjoying your accomplishments and being proud is actually something that, if you're feeling down and you're feeling you need your resilience pot filling up, start thinking positively about some of the things that you might have achieved. I mean, just the fact that you get out of bed and sort out whatever needs to be sorted out and get to the end of the day and go to bed again is an accomplishment. And at the moment, I think people aren't accomplishing as much as they will have done in previous years. So I think enjoying accomplishments that you may not have previously thought of as an accomplishment.
Yes, and it's not the quantity, is it, Jenny? We're not saying you need a list longer things, right? I mean, I like the number one, I have to say. You know, I'll have one, and just one accomplishment per day is fabulous, right? It's not a competition. It's not a list long of awards, but it's just one thing that you think, I've done really great job today.
I'm going to say something. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
Really trite, because this was my accomplishment yesterday and I was so pleased with it. I felt I had to go and show it to the rest of my family, because I had burnt a ceramic dish so badly in the oven. Apparently I put it on grill instead of oven. I'm not a very good cook. Anyway, I burnt on black on this dish, and over the period of yesterday, I've used baking powder, I used Jif, I used scrubbers, I used soaking, I used every possible way, and gradually chipping away at it, I got it clean. Now, I'm not a domestic goddess, but just the fact that this pan had taken a whole day to get clean made me feel really quite proud of what I'd done. And I mean, it's a stupid thing. And it's not important, and it doesn't make any impact on the world, but it was something that I'd accomplished yesterday that I was strangely proud of. So we're not, when we're talking about accomplishments, we don't mean necessarily big things.
No, small, one thing, one thing.
Yeah.
And then
there's another.
Yes, go, Jenny, go.
There, I was just saying, there's another nice picture. That looks like Dubai.
Nearly.
Grow your optimistic perception. Yeah, it's the same thing, but said in a different way, isn't it? You know, and it's about being the optimist rather than the pessimist. And I think that feeling optimistic has been a challenge, and I think it's always about looking for that optimism, because sometimes it's buried, and sometimes you might. I mean, yesterday, I think, was it quite a momentous day. I don't know if you watched the inauguration.
Yes.
But I didn't see the little girl who was the poet who everybody's talking about, but I saw Kamala Harris being sworn in. And that woman has got the most beautiful smile of anybody I think I've ever seen. And to me, that face alone makes me feel more optimistic than anything I've seen. I said she had her mask on, and you could see she was smiling. And I said to my daughter, I said, look at her, she's beaming away at everybody. She says, my daughter said to me, who is on the autistic spectrum, how can you tell? She's got her face covered. But she was smiling so much that her eyes smiled, just her eyes. So I think seeing people like that coming to the fore with the sort of personality that she appears to have makes me feel really optimistic. And I think it's looking for those little kernels of optimism that you can hang on to, and perhaps plowing through the pessimism.
Yeah, I think I think being optimist is also a choice. You know, you choose to look at the glass that is half empty, and you choose to look at the glass that is half full. but it's also we can take it from other people. So if we can't feel optimistic ourselves, we can borrow that from other people. I mean, yesterday I was looking at that young lady who was reading the poem, Amanda Gorman, and she was totally amazing. And I thought, gosh, I'd love her to be my mentor in terms of communication skills and the way she was reading a poem and the way she was presenting herself, lots of charisma. She's only 22. I wish I could be like that. And that gave me a lot of hope. And I think that we can look in the generation of our children to keep the hope going. I mean, I have drawn a lot on my 4 children over the last year, to look at the good things that are happening and to be helped by them, to have a view on the world that is actually, forward thinking, forward looking, because they are the hope, they are the future. So I love the feeling about being optimistic, and I make sure that every day we need to look at that, and we need to think just one thing, right? Just
one thing.
Choose one thing. So
and I think it's not just with the optimism; it's with everything, isn't it? Just do one thing. Absolutely. One of the questions we had, which I'm just going to quickly refer to, was that why are some people more optimistic than others? Is it something that's innate? And I think that some people have to be more resilient than others because some people have got a much more difficult life, and some people can be just a little bit resilient because they don't face the same adversities. So I think it's a non-measurable thing, but I think it's something that we need to be aware of, is that for some people to be resilient, it's a real battle. And I think hopefully that just one thing that will come out of today might help.
Yeah, I agree. I think resilience, I'm not sure you're born with resilience, actually. I think it's something that you are shaped in your childhood, definitely.
Nurture, that old chestnut.
and I think you can grow it. And I think it's good to know the people that make you grow your resilience, because they know what to tell you, and they know, I would respond that. Is there another question, Jenny, that we've not responded?
No. Do you think it's also about bringing up your children to be resilient? Because I think that I think both mine are resilient, and I would hope that part of what I've done in the bringing up of them is to enable them to be resilient, because I think resilience is and always has been such an important thing. And I think, it's about perhaps brushing off things and moving on and giving them that ability to bounce back.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I've not brought up my children for them to have everything on the tray ready and life is easy. I mean, they've had to face adversity at certain point, and that's the way it goes. And I think that by experiencing adversity and fears, and I think you can grow your own resilience, because you are developing some strategies that are working for you. But at a moment in time, it doesn't mean that forever the same strategy will work. But actually, you're becoming more equipped with it, and therefore you fear less. Jenny, we've been speaking for over an hour. Remember at the beginning we said it's going to be the 2 hours today. It's going to be how we manage that. I have to say that while I was managing what seems to be just a very simple PowerPoint, I could not see you at all when I do that. So it's nice to see you back, actually.
I see. I could see you all the way through. So
that's good. That's good. So Jenny, we've answered all of the questions.
I think we have, yes. Yeah. And Sarah's come in again. I feel I've become resilient through life experiences, and I think that's very true. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah, for your contributions.
Yes, thank you very much, Sarah. And we hope to meet up with you at some point online. And I have put on the PowerPoint the link where people can download the booklet that Jenny and we've produced. So I'll make sure that it's in the post so that people can go and click and download and start thinking about.
Start filling in those bubbles.
Yes,
please share them with us. You know, if you feel that's something, you know, share with us. Be interesting to get some feedback.
Brilliant. Okay, so Jenny, thank you very much for
okay, thanks, Nadine,
for this amazing discussion as always. So we're going to be back next week with Jan Daines, Nick Sheriff, and Lisa Grace Wilson. And next Thursday it's quite a special day because it's my birthday. So I'm going to put on the table the topic of kind leadership. I think
Great.
I'd love to talk about that on my birthday. So this is the topic for next week. Sarah, you're very, very welcome, and thank you very much. You're an inspiration to Jenny and I today.
And Zinab has just come in, the most important skill in the time of crisis. So absolutely. Good, thanks Zinab. I'm glad you feel the same way we do. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So it's a goodbye, and it's see you again next Thursday, same time, 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5 o'clock, and have a good week. And we will put keep building that resilience. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Bye.